Looking beyond high mortgage rates.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, helping provide a smarter, easier way to get the supplies businesses need to thrive. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying. And by Otter.ai. If someone's late to a meeting, Otter's AI-powered meeting assistant catches them up with a real-time meeting summary. More at Otter.ai.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. Rising mortgage rates have been chilling the housing market. We learned this week the number of pending home sales fell more than 7% between July and August, more than analysts were expecting. Builders have been breaking much less ground on new homes. That's at a 3-year low. Again, rising mortgage rates. But some in the housing business are already looking past the high rates of today and hoping for a better tomorrow. Marketplace's Justin Ho checked in with a few lenders.
Plenty of people want mortgages right now, but rising rates restrict what they can afford, says Dominic Miarton, CEO of Optus Bank in South Carolina.
A lot of borrowers that would have normally qualified for $500,000-$600,000 house are migrating towards $250,000 to $300,000 houses because that's simply all they can qualify for.
So competition for those homes is heating up even more. Chris Duncan is senior loan officer at LaSalle State Bank in Illinois. He says a lot of his customers are frustrated.
Customers who will come in and pre-qualify for a loan, and they're waiting around, 6, 8, 10 months until a house comes on the market that they can buy.
Duncan says many homebuyers are willing to borrow at today's rates because they're betting rates will eventually fall. He says more borrowers are asking about adjustable rate mortgages.
And a lot of our borrowers are assuming that in 3 or 5 years, those interest rates are going to have come back down.
And that will all depend on how long the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates elevated. I'm Justin Ho for Marketplace.
The Biden administration is making big investments in things like infrastructure and computer chip manufacturing. But you need people to fill all of the jobs created by those federally funded projects. And you may have heard we have a worker shortage. So the White House is rolling out a playbook for worker training. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has that.
The Biden administration says this is a chance for communities to invest in the skills and well-being of workers. That's according to the Associated Press, which received an advance copy of the 8-page training playbook. The AP says the White House is expected to release the playbook today, and it emphasizes things like apprenticeships. In September, the White House announced almost $94 million in grants for worker training programs in 25 states and the District of Columbia to prepare people for jobs in manufacturing and information technology that don't necessarily require a college degree. The White House says the training programs will target rural and historically marginalized communities, and they'll partner with community colleges on the apprenticeships. Grants have already been awarded to community colleges in Nevada, Iowa, Oregon, and Massachusetts, and a group called the United Indians of All Tribes Foundation has received $2 million. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
All right, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 0.6 to a full % range, with the Dow future up 208 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.526%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Bitwarden, the enterprise password manager for security and productivity. Easy to use with username and password autofill, biometric unlock, and availability on any device. More at bitwarden.com. And by C3 AI. C3 Generative AI provides ChatGPT enterprise search that is verifiable, secure, and accurate across all enterprise data. C3.ai. This is Enterprise AI.
12:01 Sunday morning. That is when funding for the government officially runs out, barring some miracle of bipartisan cooperation. So there is less than 72 hours to go until what would be the fourth government shutdown since 2013. Marketplace's David Brancaccio spoke with the editor-in-chief of The Economist magazine, Zanny Minton Beddoes, who argues this shutdown drama is ultimately missing the point. Here's David.
What do you make of our federal budget mess over here right now? President Biden signed a law a few months ago which capped dollars for the things that Congress can actually have a say over. Seemed like there was some order being brought to this process, but I'm not seeing order.
It's the circus all over again. But what actually worries me much more about the US is not the consequences of a shutdown, which would be, of course, terrible for the people involved. But the bigger picture problem is that the US economy which, is not in recession and we're at peacetime, is running a 7% of GDP budget deficit. And bond yields have risen. They're now, about 4.5%. So the debt service cost is becoming a real problem. The last time the US had bond yields where they were now, I think debt was about 35% of GDP. It's now 98%. So the cost of the US debt is growing dramatically. The deficit is the highest it's been in peacetime. That's what worries me.
Yeah, and people should remember, you just mentioned it quickly, which is that if we were in a terrible recession, it might make some sense to run up the deficit a little further. But this is not a recession.
The economy is not in recession. Unemployment is incredibly low. So to be running this scale of deficit right now is really reckless. And the problem is that, as you know, David, it's not really because of the spending that the folks in Washington are arguing about right now. It's not about what's called discretionary spending. It's really about two things, primarily entitlements, the cost of spending on Social Security and Medicare. And actually, looking forward, it's also about tax revenue, because if you remember, Donald Trump cut taxes. Those taxes, they're going to expire under current law in 2025. So all of the projections that are made right now about where the deficit and where the debt are going to be going forward assume that those taxes will end in 2025, those tax cuts. And DC politics better than I do, but I'd be very, very surprised if all of the Donald Trump's tax cuts were rolled back, especially the ones for the middle class.
So you're not at some level applauding dissident Republicans who are dragging their heels on this stuff?
No, I'm not, because they're focusing on the wrong thing. I think that what we have now is a whole load of drama about something that doesn't matter, which is the relatively short-term part of discretionary spending. And we have no appetite on either side, and certainly not amongst the Republicans, to really deal with what does matter. So no, I don't think this drama is a substitute for a serious discussion about U.S. fiscal policy.
Zanny Minton-Beddoes, editor-in-chief of The Economist. Thank you.
You're welcome.
She was speaking there with Marketplace's David Brancaccio. Our executive producer is Kelly Silvera. Our digital producer is Dylan Mietinen. Our engineers are Jessen Dueller and Nick Esposito. And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.